How are you guys doing? Today is Friday, December 31st, 2021. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, I'm going to preview the 2022 calendar year for the soccer year as I lay out all of the elite soccer players team by team so we get a sense of all the players that I'm going to be making profiles for through the year. I'm going to make their individual profiles on their birthday, whether they be elite profiles or GOAT profiles, greatest of all time, and I will make that distinction here. And I was also able to categorize them and place them into their very different leagues. And with that said, just to give you a sense of all of the elite soccer players that are playing in the world, because first going in, I think it's important to note how rare and how talented each and every one of these players is, considering there are hundreds of thousands of players that are competing to, or even possibly millions of professional soccer players that are competing for these very spots. And these are the few people that happen to occupy the spots of the best soccer players in the world. Starting with England, the only player that doesn't play for one of the bigger clubs is Jamie Vardy. He comes into the season 34. He turns 35 on January 11th. He comes into the season, of course, after having multiple seasons leading Leicester City and even the Premier League in goals. Of course, following up after Leicester, taking a look at the teams that cracked the table from the reigning Premier League champs, Manchester City. Starting from the back, their goalie Ederson was able to make this cut. Their goalie coming out of Brazil is 28. He turns 29 this year. Moving up to the defense, their central defender, Ruben Diaz, who was rated by ESPN as the best center back in the world last year, is of course up here for the very first time after not being on the list last year. Also, as we move up through the list, or as we move up towards the front of the lineup, of course, João Cancelo, their right back, was able to make this list, crack it as well as as the Portuguese national has had an amazing season, is a big part of the reason Man City is doing so well this year. In their midfield, their Belgian midfielder, Kevin De Bruyne, is of course rated by many as one of the best in the world. He is also the player that held the Bundesliga record for assists before Thomas Muller broke it a couple of years ago. Not to mention that he's been a world-class player ever since he's been at Man City, including this year. And then going up to the front, you have Raheem Sterling, who's 27 this year. He turns 28. The English international, of course, coming off of various great seasons for Man City, is one of the reasons why Manchester City is sitting on top of the Premier League right now. Looking cross town over at Manchester United, starting from the back end, their Spanish goalie David De Gea is 31 as he turns 32 this season. Moving up to the lineup, their French defender Raphael Varane he's playing in his very first season at Man U, coming off of his incredible stint at Real Madrid. Also moving up through that lineup, you have Paul Pogba, the midfielder who helped France win the World Cup in 2018. And now that this Man U team is getting a lot better, Paul Pogba is, of course, one of the determinants as to whether Man U whether they perform incredibly well or incredibly poorly. But he is a big part of the reason why Man U has been incredibly successful, at least up to this point. Moving up through the lineup, their 24-year-old forward, their English international Marcus Rashford, is 24. He turned 25 this year. Mason Greenwood, their young 20-year-old, turns 21 today as he cracked the list for the first time. Their 21-year-old forward, Jadon Sancho, is coming off of a phenomenal season for Borussia Dortmund last season as he is working his way into the Manchester United lineup for good. And of course, to top it off, their 36-year-old goated forward from Portugal, Cristiano Ronaldo, coming into this year after scoring 47 goals in all competitions last year. I believe he was second to Robert Lewandowski, but he had an incredible year beginning to end, and now he returned back to Man U, the team that made him the team that he was playing on, in which he ascended to superstar status. And he is one of two players that has scored in every single Champions League game this year, alongside Sebastian Haller of Ajax. So, of course, Cristiano Ronaldo gets his praise for being up here. Taking a look at the players from Liverpool that cracked the list, starting from the back line, Alisson Becker, their Brazilian goalie, cracked the list as the third team I mentioned where their goalie is made. It being the starting goalie for Liverpool is no small feat. Moving up to the defensive line, their 30-year-old defender Virgil van Dijk is here again to start after putting up an amazing season for Liverpool and the Netherlands. Also, their Scottish left back Andy Robertson would be named here as he turns 28 this season. Moving up through the lineup, their midfielder, staying in their defense, Trent Alexander-Arnold, their English right back, was named this season yet again after yet another virtuoso season. Moving up through the midfield, Thiago Alcantara, their Spanish midfielder, turns 31 this season. And then their forwards, Sadio Mane, going up to the forward line. On one end, you have Sadio Mane, who's 29 years old. He turns 30 as he is playing incredibly well for Liverpool and Senegal. And then, of course, they have their other elite African forward on the other end. You have Mohamed Salah out of Egypt, who turns 30 this year as well. So that is exactly how Liverpool is looking back to front, as Liverpool has seven they have 7 elite players going into this calendar year, which is of course part of the reason that Liverpool has been incredibly successful in the past. Moving to what's going on in London, starting first with Arsenal. Arsenal's lone elite player was Bukayo Saka, the 20-year-old who was called up by the English internationals. He ended up he missed one of the penalty kicks for England in the Euros, but of course Bukayo Saka was a very big part of the reason why England was there, and he's also a big part of the reason why Arsenal is actually in contention to qualify for the Champions League next season. Sitting alongside he's the only player from Arsenal. Moving over a couple blocks to Tottenham. The 2 players that, of course, cracked the list were Tottenham's elite English striker Harry Kane. He turns 29 this year, and then their forward Son Heung-min out of South Korea. He turns 30 this season. And of course, last but not least, looking at the reigning Champions League winners, Chelsea. Moving from the back to the forward, starting with the defense, they have Antonio Rudiger, who is cracking this list for the first time. They're a German central defender, big part of the reason why they won. Their other defender was Reece James, named in for the first time. Their young right back turns 23 this season. Moving up to the midfield, N'Golo Kante, their center defensive mid out of France, turned 31 today. Not to mention that he also won the World Cup back in 2018, and he won the Premier League with Leicester City. So the guy's a proven winner. Moving up through, they also had Jorginho in their midfield, their Italian midfielder who won Euros this past year and had a good amount of Ballon d'Or votes coming in as well. And then, of course, they had Kai Havertz, their young 22-year-old German center attacking mid who will now turn 23 this upcoming season. And then, of course, sitting at the very front in the striker position, for the moment, Chelsea has Romelu Lukaku, the Belgian striker. And I know that he's been in a lot of, as of right now, in this portion of the year, this is where Romelu Lukaku is actually having some biffs with Chelsea and their manager Thomas Tuchel. He's hinted that he missed Inter, but I have no idea I'm still waiting for the other shoe to drop to figure out what's going on with him. But regardless, Romelu Lukaku is still one of the best goal scorers in the world. And that actually accounts for all of the players that are playing in the Premier League. They're just looking at all of the players in the Prem. There is a total of 30 players in the Premier League, just to get a sense of how deep the Premier League is. And of course, there's a lot of reasons going to that as well. But transitioning into the Ligue 1, all of the players that cracked the elite play for the same team for PSG, which makes sense if you actually know how French football is set up. Starting from the back, their goalie, Gianluigi Donnarumma, turns 23 this year. Back in 2021, he helped Italy win the Euros, and he was, I believe, the only goalie to win the player of the tournament at the Euros, as he helped Italy get there after saving a bunch of penalty kicks and allowing Italy to outscore the other teams on offense. Moving up to the defensive line, their 27-year-old defender Marquinhos out of Brazil he's making this list for the first time, as of course he's proven that he is a world-class defender. Achraf Hakimi, their fullback out of Morocco, is able to crack this list as he turns 24 this season. Also, their goated Spanish defender Sergio Ramos turns 37 in March, as he is still starting to get his legs under him at Paris, and of course he's coming off of various seasons in which he's proven that he is, if not the best, one of the best center backs to exist, even as he moves into his late 30s. And then, of course, moving to the forwards, starting off with their 33-year-old Argentinian forward, Angel Di Maria. He has played an incredible season as he looks to return and have another one. Their elite 23-year-old forward, Kylian Mbappe, is, of course, coming off of a high-scoring season as well, as he is now putting up probably the highest assist numbers that he's putting up in his career as well, now that he has Lionel Messi on his team. And then, of course, they have Neymar, who turns 30 this year, who's also proven that he's one of the best players to ever touch a soccer ball. And I believe he's already Brazil's all-time leading scorer. And he's just going to enter his 30s in maybe a month. Taking a look at the last player on this list, of course, is Lionel Messi, their goated forward out of Argentina. The all-time La Liga scorer, La Liga's all-time leading scorer, turns 35 this season, as he is about to enter his very first full calendar year with Paris Saint-Germain. Taking a look at what's going on in Spain as we move over the border. Starting with the Madrid teams first. There were 3 players that were named for Atletico Madrid. Starting from the back, their 28-year-old goalie Jan Oblak out of Slovenia. He's dropped down a little bit in 2021, but he's still one of the world's best goalkeepers if you really give him a chance. Moving up in the lineup, their French forward Antoine Griezmann turns 31 today. Of course, he is a World Cup winner, and the last time he was on Atletico Madrid, he was he was one of the players that helped Atletico Madrid really shine. So it's a good thing that he's back on the team. And then sitting at front at striker, they are running with Luis Suarez out of Uruguay. He turns 35 this season, just to get a sense of what Atletico Madrid is working with. Moving with Real Madrid, starting from the back, their goalie is the starting Belgian goalie Thibaut Courtois. He turns 30 this season. And on the defensive line, they have David Alaba, who just recently moved to the team from Bayern Munich after Bayern won the Champions League in 2020. So this is his first, I want to say this might be his first calendar year with Real Madrid as well. Moving up through the lineup, their midfielder, Luka Modric, former Ballon d'Or winner, turns 37 this year. As he is probably established as one of the greatest, if not the greatest, Croatian soccer player of all time. Their other midfielder out of Germany, Toni Kroos, turns 32 within this week, just to get a sense of how well he's been playing, especially at this time. He's just barely entering his 30s. Moving to the front line, they're running with Vinicius Jr., the 21-year-old out of Brazil, as he cracks this list for the first time. He really is showing that he is stepping up to that next level and proving that he can be what Real Madrid wants him to be. And then, of course, running striker is Karim Benzema, who's come off an amazing 2021 season, especially in a season where not that many people expected much out of him, considering that he is in his 30s. He turns 35 in December. Taking a look, so those are all the players that are playing in La Liga at an elite level. Moving over to the Serie A, starting off with the Roman team, Lazio is running with Ciro Immobile at striker. Ciro Immobile won the Golden Boot, I want to say, following the 2020-21 season. If not the 2019-2020 season, but he won in one of those seasons, and Ciro Immobile is the starting striker for Italy. He helped Italy win the Euros this past summer. So, of course, Ciro Immobile earned his way back onto this list. Jumping over to Naples and Napoli, their defender, Kalidou Koulibaly, turns 31 this year, and he also is playing for Senegal as well. Looking at the one player from Inter Milan cracking the list for the first time is Argentinian striker Lautaro Martinez. He made it off this list after finishing an incredible season with Romelu Lukaku for Inter Milan, and of course he's coming into this next season as Inter Milan's go-to scorer, or at least go-to playmaker up front. And then, of course, for Juventus, I have their two defenders sitting in the back, Leo Bonucci, who turns 35 this year, and Giorgio Chiellini, who turns 38 this year. They've been running with the Juventus for over a decade, probably about 15 years, I want to say. And, of course, they were big forces in helping Italy come on and win the Euros for the year. So, of course, that is how the CDAA shapes up, as there are about 5 elite players in the CDAA that I've registered, less than I have for PSG as one team. And then, of course, last but not least, taking a look at what's going on in the Bundesliga, starting off with Bayern Munich, the reigning Bundesliga champs. Starting from the back, their goated goalie Manuel Neuer turns 36 today. He's won 2 trebles, not to mention the 2014 World Cup with Germany. Moving up to the lineup, their defender out of Canada, Alphonso Davies, regarded by many as one of the best left backs in the world, has also cracked the cut for this list. He turns 22 this year. In their midfield, they're running with Joshua Kimmich, their midfielder regarded by many as one of the best in the world after Bayern moved them up from the defense. Joshua Kimmich turns 27 this year. Also sitting in their midfield, they're also running with Thomas Müller, their goated midfielder, one of the greatest German soccer players of all time. I believe he is the most decorated player ever, as I believe he was, or in Germany, as he was on Bayern Munich longer than Neuer, so he has more trophies than Neuer, and he won the World Cup. Not to mention that he's also the current Bundesliga single-season assist record holder. Also in that midfield, joining this list for the first time is Jamal Musiala, Bayern's young 18-year-old prospect who eventually is going to come up and be one of the franchise's best players. He was signed with Bayern through 2025, and he's already left quite the impression. Not to mention that he's already scored multiple Champions League goals, if not only one, and he turns 19 this season. Moving to the forward, looking at who they have on their wings, they have the elite duo of Leroy Sané and Serge Gnabry. Leroy Sané is a little newer to the team after coming from Man City and winning a Premier League title there. Leroy Sané turns 26. Serge Gnabry's been on Bayern a little bit more. He was a part of Bayern's 2020 Champions League team. He turns 27 this year. And then, of course, sitting at the very front of Bayern Munich is the reigning, he was not the Ballon d'Or winner, but he was named the best player in Europe, and he would also go down to be the all-time leading or the goal scoring leader for the entire 2021 calendar year. So of course, Robert Lewandowski, in addition to everything that in addition to what he won with Bayern, including the treble in 2020, he's established himself as a GOAT, and in 2021, I believe he rose into GOAT status. Last but not least, in Germany, looking at the 3 players that cracked the list from Borussia Dortmund, moving from the back to the front. In their midfield, they're running with their 18-year-old out of England, Jude Bellingham, who's coming off of an incredible season. He's playing incredibly well for Dortmund this season. And then running forward, they have 2 other young players, starting with Erling Braut Haaland. Their Norwegian striker turned 22 today after finishing second in all goals in the Premier League in the Bundesliga to Robert Lewandowski last year. And in the calendar year, out of all the German teams, he finished second in goals for the entire calendar year. He's 21. I have no idea where he could get moved, but as of right now, for Borussia Dortmund, he is proving that he might be one of the best young prospects to come out of Dortmund, and they even had Robert Lewandowski. And then last but not least, they are also running with a young elite prospect, Youssoufa Moukoko, who turns 18 this year. He's the player that was the youngest Bundesliga debutant. He was also the Bundesliga's youngest goal scorer ever, as he may as well be on quite the path for Borussia Dortmund at the pace that he's at right now. But those are all of the soccer players that I have, from the Prem to the Ligue 1 to La Liga to Serie A to Bundesliga. And just to give you a little bit of insight, I am going to do the profiles for every single one of these players on their birthdays, going through all their going through all the stats thresholds they were able to pass through each season. I'm going to go through all the accolades and trophies that they were able to win for club and country. And I think it's crazy just looking at how 2022 is going to be a World Cup year. I think that the 2022 elite or season of the Elite for Soccer is going to be a season unlike any I've ever had. I want to thank everyone for listening to all 19 minutes of this piece. I really do hope all is well. And I do hope to catch you tomorrow with another episode, but I do have 3 more episodes to preview for the 2022 year. Thanks for listening. I hope all is well, and I'll catch you with another episode after this. Peace out.